Welcome to the second video on interpreting run charts for use in healthcare quality improvement. You'll recall in the last video here we went through how to create a new run chart from scratch in Excel, and now I'm going to jump over to the first two rules for interpreting run charts. So the first one is called shift, and so shift is when 6 or more points occur above or below the median. And what I have for you here is fabricated data relating to referrals to a cardiac rehabilitation program. And so we've got our 20 points over here, we've got data, our median, and in this case what I've done that's a little bit different from the last one is I've added a goal. And so what was going on here is we were getting 4 referrals per week, 6 referrals per week, so on and so forth, and we wanted to increase referrals to our program. So we went out and did a talk and spoke to all of our referring providers and said, hey, this has got this great program, here are the benefits, I hope you will send patients to our program. And then we tracked referrals to see if that talk made any difference in our referral patterns. And what we were hoping is to get to a goal of 8 per week, so that's why I've added this little goal line here. Looking at the data then, what we see is we've got this steady process here with a median of 5, and after we give our talk, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points after that that all occur above the median. And so it's fair to say then that our program did increase the number of referrals that we got. What we sort of see at the tail end of this graph, though, is that the number of referrals dips back down to 5, to 4, and then the last point we have on here is 6. And so this run chart seems to be demonstrating that we did have a substantial increase, but at the end the referring providers seem to have regressed to their prior habits, and cardiac rehab was no longer fresh on their mind. For any of you who have done educational interventions in healthcare settings or otherwise, you'll recognize this phenomenon where education is frequently effective in the short term, but people tend to revert to their old habits as time goes on. So that's our interpretation based on this run chart, is we had a significant change after the talk, but then we had regression. And what I want to show you is if we take the exact same data, these 20 points here, and we use pre-post testing with just comparison of medians and what that data would look like. And so in this case, this is our pre-data over here on the left. This is our post data here on the right, represented by the medians. So here's the raw data here, same as above. And the pre-median was 5, the post-median was 7.5. And if we compare these with a Mann-Whitney U comparison of medians test, we get a significant value, a p-value of 0.019. So we would say, hey, congratulations, pat ourselves on the back, our talk increased the number of referrals. But the problem here is that in analyzing your data in this fashion, you lose the fact that towards the tail end here you had this regression. So this is an example of how run charts can really give you incredible depth and much better understanding what's going on with your processes as compared to simple pre-post testing. The next rule we're going to talk about is trends. So trends are when 5 or more points are trending all up or down, so they're all going in the same direction. And this is some fabricated data based on hand washing failures on some unit in the hospital. So the backstory here might be that this particular unit had a number of hospital acquired infections that were observed, and so they came under greater scrutiny for how many times people were failing to wash their hands after patient contact. And so this data, let's just say, comes from audit teams that are watching all the providers and making little notes on their clipboard as to whether or not people wash their hands. All right. So the data looks like this. 25, 23, 24. It looks like it's following this little line right here. Our median, based on our baseline 10 values here, is 21.5. Right, so we only calculated it based on what we think is the steady state. And then I've also added these 25th percentile and 75th percentile lines just to sort of give you an idea of what the statistical margins are for this particular process. When we look at the data that occurs after the hospital said, hey, let's buy this brand new hand washing system, where everybody has to wear a little badge, and it detects whether or not you use the alcohol to sanitize or to clean your hands, and then let's see how much of an effect it has on this process. So they buy that here, and then we look at the data that comes after that, and we have this trend here, 5 points, all going down. So it goes from 18, 15, 14, 12, 11. And then we have another trend here, 11, 10, 8, 7, 6. So 5 points. So we've got a couple of trends here that are both saying that the number of failures is going down. The question is, was that due to the purchase of the new hand washing monitoring system? And so I think it's pretty obvious, but if you look at this trend overall, that it's going down from the get-go. So 25 down to 17, just within the the baseline 10 variable or 10 observations. That might be because people were taking it to heart that they needed to wash their hands better. That might be due to a Hawthorne effect, that they knew they were being watched by these auditors. Unclear to say exactly what was causing it, but it is probably a reasonable interpretation to conclude that hand washing failures were already trending down when this new system was purchased, and that maybe this system actually had nothing to do with it. So that becomes pretty important, because when the hospital says this is effective, they're thinking about buying this for the entire hospital system. It would be nice to know that maybe it wasn't actually the system that made the difference. Again, let's go down to pre-post testing and see how this fails to capture that level of nuance. So here is our same data as above, and like I said, the pre-intervention median was 21.5 failures, and then our post-intervention, our median is now 11. And we've got that graphed here, pre-post. You can see there's a difference. When you calculate that with your Mann-Whitney U, you get a p of less than 0.001. So hey, significant improvement. And again, if the only thing that occurred between pre and post that you were aware of was purchasing this monitoring system, you might think that this is a great investment and the hospital should buy it for everybody, when in reality, that may not really be the case. All right, so join us for the last video when we're going to talk about the last couple of rules about interpreting run charts and wrap up with some conclusions.